Call meeting to order, please. Thanks, Caroline. We don't have our agenda in front of you, so I'm gonna definitely be clearly looking at the screen. We're gonna go over. Thank you, so, moving forward.
Oh, I will do roll call
Oh,
first.
yes.
Aaron Gill, not present. Frank Kinsella.
Present.
Robert Sipple.
Present.
Allison Falwell.
Here.
Lauren Lewis.
Here.
Raj Bhagat, not present. Justin Fields.
Here.
Dan Kenny, not present. Lonnie Wong Bassett, not present. Mara Burton. Ed Von Rennick. Joe Henwick.
Present.
Beth Brigsdale.
Present.
Mary Patterson.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to any public comments.
If there are any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on any item not on the agenda, please raise your hand and I will call on you. There are none.
Thank you. We will now move to the approval of minutes. Do I have someone to make a motion?
Move to approve minutes. I'll do the second.
Okay, motion made by Justin Fields, seconded by Robert Sipple. Frank Kinsella,
Yes.
Robert Sipple,
Yes.
Allison Falwell,
Yes.
Lauren Lewis,
Same.
Justin Fields,
Yes.
Mara Burton,
Yes.
Ed Von Rennick, Joe Henwick,
Sustained.
Beth Brigsdale,
Yes.
Mary Patterson,
Yes.
and the motion passes.
All right, thank you. So I do have just a nice quick opening report. I know we all probably received the email that from Andrea about her moving on, so I just wanted to address that real quick because I wanted to take a moment to recognize our general manager who recently announced her decision to move on and step down from her role. On behalf of the Citizens Advisory Committee, I want to express our sincere gratitude for your leadership, your dedication, and your service to the Open Space Authority. I know when I got the email, it was bittersweet. Happy for you. I don't want to say sad for us because I know that you're still going to be very actively involved in things and always with us, but we won't have you here every meeting. So, our hearts will be touched by that. Over the course of the years, you've helped advance the mission of the Open Space Authority to protecting open spaces, restoring natural resources, and connecting with our community as well too. Seen huge changes in just a few short years that I've been on the CAC, and the way that you've taken feedback from the community, taken feedback from this committee, and really implemented it in real time with actionable measures. Every work plan we have has been something that we talked about over the years. So just thank you for that dedication and your leadership. And for your contributions, and we just want to say continued success in your next chapter. I just wanted to address that because it feels like a friend it's graduating. So thank you for that. I do want to just encourage everyone to take advantage of some of the other opportunities that are coming up as well too. On August 6th, there's a Tule elk hike at Mayan Yakima. Sounds really fun. And then also on August 8th, that's actually Lionsgate for all of our astrological people in the house, but it's Lionsgate. It's going to be a starry night tour as well. So bring your binoculars or telescopes and check out some of the planets. And so these are just great opportunities to get out into our parks, check out some fun things that staff is putting together. And I just want to thank you all for being here tonight and say thank you for your contributions. And again, apologies for my tardiness.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that we have the time to turn this into a tribute for Andrea, but as one of the senior members on the committee, I'm going to jump in and take my opportunity to say that it was such an honor to serve not under you, but with you, and that's the vibe you gave us, is that we served with you. And I also want to make, I want to bring to everybody's attention that the legacy you leave is historical. Like, it is nothing less than historical. What you have done will be talked about for generations. What you have done will be enjoyed by people. I don't have any kids, but there's people in here with kids and grandkids and legacies of their own that will be enjoyed by the path that you laid out for them. It's nothing less than incredible what you have done. Your leadership, the way you've been accessible. The meeting we had at that little paved path when I had a problem and you made time for me. I'm going to miss you so much. We're all going to miss you so much. But what you've done in terms of establishing a legacy means we are going to carry forth and just charge on. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. That's music to my ears that you will carry it forward. And Madam Chair, thank you very much for your words, and to the whole CAC. We got plenty of time to talk and reminisce and celebrate and all that. So I'm looking forward to that in the coming months. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some business. Yes, okay, so we are going to start to receive some reports. So presentation of the approved Open Space Authority fiscal year 2026-2027 budget work plan.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Justina Teen, Fiscal Services Officer. Tonight, we're excited to present to the CAC the authority's approved fiscal year 26-27 budget and annual work plan. The development of the budget and annual work plan spans over half a year, and staff across all the departments are involved. Approximately after starting the new fiscal year, the executive team as well as management and strategy team starts thinking about evaluating the priorities for the next year, start engaging with the board to discuss and seek feedback. And around December to March, the project managers and program leads work with their department managers to kind of put together a draft budget and work plan. And in June, the board adopts the budget and work plan. And today, we're happy to provide a general overview of the priorities in the work plan as approved by the board on June 11th of this year. So in this fiscal year, staff will continue working on some existing projects and programmatic work across all the departments, as well as kick off a handful of new projects. Staff in the CSP department, the Conservation and Strategic Partnerships Department, will continue to be busy managing the Urban Grant Program grant awards. Staff will look to the CAC to support and continue providing feedback, reviewing those guidelines to inform future grant cycles, which aligns with Objective 5 of the CAC's work plan, as well as reviewing any applications for the 20% funding program under District 1, which aligns with Objective 6 of the CAC's work plan. In long-range planning, staff will continue to work on CV Camp. CAC can continue to support staff with staff facilitated initiatives, to continue building awareness and strengthen relationships with community groups, neighborhood associations, and the general public. The CAC can also deliver public outreach presentations for awareness building, incorporate timely talking points based on the operations and CV Camp specifically, and deliver feedback to the board as well as to staff. And that's outlined in Objective 3 of the work plan for CAC. Along the same lines in Objective 3, staff in Planning, Design, and Construction, PDC, will also seek the CAC's participation in field tours and project update meetings, namely for the Rancho Cañada del Oro Regional Trails expansion, as well as the Cowdery Valley Open Space Preserve, the public access improvement projects that are currently underway. We also have a new project kicking off in this current new fiscal year, and it's the Connecting People to Nature Through Art project. And we really would appreciate CAC's initial input with that. In communications and media, staff is heavily investing in public education initiatives, bringing attention to our projects and agency, and raising awareness through ongoing media outreach and local reporters. We believe the CAC will be great partners in supporting the board with that public engagement and sharing contacts at organizations that you guys have within communities that you guys have to boost that engagement. And that all aligns with Objective 4 of your work plan. Okay. And then in field, there will be lots of opportunities for CAC to take part in training, as well as activities produced by the Environmental Educational Program and Volunteer Program, as they ramp up some outreach booth events and outdoor programs. So definitely be on the lookout for that newsletter. Sign up to volunteer at the booths, join the educational programs, be part of Preserve Stewards. There'll be plenty for the CAC to participate and engage in to fulfill any goals and tasks outlined in Objective 1. A few of those projects. And then in natural resources, the department has a slate of projects lined up for completion in the next in this fiscal year, as well as starting some new ones that are bound to attract some attention. And CAC will be asked, for example, to provide some input on the draft farm vision plan, which I believe is also on the agenda for tonight. And that's also aligned with Objective 3. And finally, the admin department will focus on some long-term financial sustainability and succession planning. Investments in the staff, the board, as well as committee members will allow the agency to kind of reap the benefits of developing the next generation of leaders. Admin staff will continue to work with the CAC to support the recruitment, to maintain full membership, as well as growing professional development for the committee. And strengthening your operations, and that all aligns with Objectives 7 and 8 of your work plan. So now, in terms of how do we plan to support the delivery of the work plan for fiscal year 26-27? As just a quick overview in terms of revenues for the authority's funds, we have incoming revenues from two sources. District 1 brings in about 4.2 million, and then Measure T brings in approximately 8 million per fiscal year. Any unspent revenue from previous fiscal years are also carried over. So we still have some balance left in Measure Q. We also have some balance left in reserve. And we also do continue to leverage outside funding with grants. And so in terms of the budget, this one here is the approved budget that we had provided to the board. We are looking at a total budget of approximately 23.9 million for this current fiscal year. And the breakdown of that budget is mainly named in salaries and benefits, as well as a lot of capital improvement projects that would basically increase the asset value over time. And with the and then one of the bigger one-time expense that was in this year's budget was the cost of the election, putting the Measure D on the ballot. And so just was something to keep in mind, wanted to bring to CAC's attention that we had brought to the board as well. At the time that we proposed the budget, the outcome of Measure D was not yet certified. So we continue to take that conservative approach where our proposed budget using our own OSA funds was approximately a little under $17.6 million. And compared to the last fiscal year, it actually kept it level. And then what happens is we are also seeking outside funding. So funding through partners as well as through grants, either at the federal, state, or local level, We anticipate spending about 1.9 million in grants. And so that was also a change an increase in the usage compared to last fiscal year. And then some one-time costs that I had mentioned previously was the election costs. This is an election year. We anticipate having to set aside budget for the director's election costs, as well as the measure ballot that we would have to, the invoice that would be due soon. And so that was the total in terms of that is what makes up why the budget was about 23.9 million for this fiscal year. And then any questions? I know it kind of went a little quick for the overview, but I'm open to any questions. But that does conclude the presentation. Hopefully it was helpful in terms of what the board's priorities and how CAC can help align with. Good, okay. And that's it. Thank
That's
you.
a stellar presentation, because I think this is the first time the CAC has had no questions. So thank you for being very explanatory. Yeah, very impressive. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move on, yay, to receive a presentation on the Coyote Valley Discovery Days Community Engagement and update on the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan.
Thank you, Ivy. Good evening, committee members. Nick Perry, Long Range Planning Manager, Coyote Valley Project Director. Excited to be here tonight to share an update on the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan, CV Camp for short. Joined here by Jennifer Peth, who will be presenting to you all shortly. Also like to acknowledge Ana Regalado and Aaron Bear. Ana's really leading the charge with our agricultural planning for CV Camp, and Aaron on the habitat restoration side. So you got a good cross-section of the team here today that's doing the planning work for CV Camp. So tonight's presentation, I'll start with a really quick project background. I think you're all pretty familiar with CV Camp, but just to get us all on the same page. And then Jennifer's going to give outreach recap from all the work we were doing in spring and takeaways and share this with you all. And that'll be the main focus of tonight's presentation. And then I'll come back and give some progress updates and next steps for CV Camp, and then happy to take questions and discussion. And I'll just say that there's some dense information in here. So if you have questions that come up as we're presenting, feel free to raise your hand, and through the chair, we're happy to answer questions. All right, so project background. I'll start with this image, a beautiful image by Derek Newman looking west over Coyote Valley from above the Diablo Range towards the Santa Cruz Mountains. This really remarkable landscape, and all the golden area is the focus of CV Camp. We're now at 1,674 acres in the project area. It's grown by a third since we started working on the plan. So we've had some great success working with our partners like Peninsula Open Space Trust to really capture the key properties to achieve our conservation vision for Coyote Valley. We are, of course, the lead agency for the master plan, but we're doing it in very close partnership with the city of San Jose and the Peninsula Open Space Trust, who are the other land owning entities in that golden area. Of course, we also have many other partners like Valley Water and the Habitat Agency, County Parks, VTA, San Jose Department of Transportation, that we're coordinating with as we do this planning effort. We have the 10 goals that the project team identified early on for CV Camp, and we have a large team that's working with us to help create this plan. Just really quickly on the left side of the screen, the Connecting People to Coyote Valley team, led by the firm CMG Landscape Architecture, is really focused on how we connect people to nature and agriculture in Coyote Valley. On the right side, you have the Coyote Valley Landscape Linkage team, led by the firm HT Harvey. They're really focused on habitat restoration and restoring the floodplain, and how do we adapt this landscape as the climate changes. And in the middle of this Venn diagram, you have both teams helping us figure out the local agriculture, future of local agriculture on those protected lands, how we work with the roads and transportation network that's carving through Coyote Valley, and then how do we keep in mind the big picture? Like, these are 1,674 acres, but a much larger Coyote Valley that we're planning them within this context. So we are well through much of CV Camp now. The last phase of work was really focused on creating all the design concepts for habitat restoration, for floodplain restoration, for public access, for agriculture, putting all the ideas on the table. And that was really the focus of all the spring outreach, which Jen is going to share with you all in just a few seconds. And then as I said, I'll come back and talk about what's ahead after Jen has talked to you all about what we did this spring. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jen.
Right. Thank you, Nick, and good evening, committee members. Jennifer Pez, Senior Open Space Planner and Assistant Project Manager for the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan. So the project team embarked on an ambitious outreach and engagement efforts this spring. And this was, we released design concepts for the master plan, which is a really important milestone in the planning process. So we wanted to seek feedback from the public on those concepts, particularly related to public access and agriculture, and then share the really exciting planning work that was happening on the habitat restoration side as well. So we've brought the props that you see behind me here today, so you can get a feel for the kit that we took out to all of our events this spring. Right. So Coyote Valley Discovery Days was a mix of online and in-person events. The kickoff was March 20th, first day of spring. This was followed by in-person events. So we had a kickoff webinar, pardon me, on March 20th, and then in-person events throughout San Jose, Morgan Hill, and Coyote Valley. There were three primary goals of spring engagement. This was to continue to generally raise awareness about Coyote Valley, engage new audiences in fun and creative ways, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute, and then seeking feedback again on those design concepts from the general public, key demographic, and other stakeholders. So to support spring outreach, we developed a mobile CV camp exhibit. The exhibit, it was anchored by the 5 large banners that you see across the top of the screen and the 2 examples that you have that are behind me. And this talked about Coyote Valley, where it's located, the habitat connectivity piece, the importance of habitat connectivity through the project area, the focal species, the waterways like Fisher Creek and Laguna Seca, and then shared about those public access amenities and open space destinations that we're considering. And so supplemented by the 3D map of Coyote Valley that was really a draw for people to come in, and it helped explain the context of Coyote Valley between those 2 mountain ranges. It was a fun conversation starter. And then we also had in-person voting. So we asked people, of those 4 open space destinations that we're considering, which one was really most exciting for them. And then I wanted to can't forget to thank our communications team, who really worked to bring a number of these to life, including the banners. Right. So 3 of the largest events that we had as part of Discovery Days are shown on the screen here. We deployed the full mobile exhibit at these, and we partnered with our education team at 2 of the events to bring family-friendly activities and craft stations. We also had Youth Science Institute that had live animals, local wildlife. And then our partners at Post, Peninsula Open Space Trust, also attended all 3 events. And at all 3 events, we also had our OSA outreach booth. So through Discovery Days, we aimed to partner with other organizations in the community to broaden the reach of our events. We partnered with Santana Row and the City of Morgan Hill, an association of university women, to put on or assist with Earth Day events. And partnered with the Children's Discovery Museum in San Jose for a spring festival. And then again, this helped to draw larger audiences to our events with that synergy with partners in those community events. The number of attendees are across the bottom of the screen here, and we had across the full suite of Coyote Valley Discovery Days events, about 1,600 people engaged in person. So some of the key takeaways from that in-person engagement, many attendees were learning about Coyote Valley for the first time. They were excited about it, and they expressed really strong support for the wildlife connectivity goals of the project. There was interest and excitement in visiting those future open space destinations. And then also generally, appreciation for Coyote Valley, but again, not a lot of background or necessarily or familiarity. So Coyote Valley Discovery Days, it was intended for a broad general audience. We, again, to educate the public about CV Camp and seek feedback on those design concepts. And then we additionally held targeted outreach events. So we gave presentations on-site in Coyote Valley to Bay Area older adults and No Worries Amigo. We held an agricultural focused meeting in partnership with South County Farmers Association and other agricultural stakeholders. And to reach underrepresented members of the community, we offered guided hikes in Coyote Valley at the North Coyote Valley Hilltop. And through this engagement, our goals were to reach members of the accessibility community, youth, and non-English speaking members of the public. For the guided hikes, the authority provided transportation to the site and interpreters if needed. And we also provided lunch. And again, so we were able to do this through a grant for engagement through the State Coastal Conservancy supporting the project. And as part of the hike, attendees learned about Coyote Valley and completed the spring survey. So I will now transition to those spring survey results. And again, please feel free to stop me at any time along the way. But as a reminder, this was not a scientific survey. So this is one tool that we're using to help guide decision-making. And the results are representative of the people who were interested enough to take the survey, right? Or who we reached through outreach. So the survey ran from March 20th through May 31st. We distributed via the methods you see on the bullets on the screen. This was the Open Space Authority's newsletter and blog post. We mailed nearly 1,300 postcards to Coyote Valley residents. We put out flyers and postcards at our preserves and other local gathering places, and shared information while we were tabling at not only Discovery Days events, but other events throughout the community. And then through paid promotions and ads, and then also social media. And I'll just call out, as mentioned in the memo, that we reached, we had over 700,000 impressions for Coyote Valley specific content through the spring. So again, thank you to our comms team. The survey was distributed in English, Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. We received 930 responses, the majority of which were online responses. The majority of surveys were submitted in English. The in-language surveys that we received were primarily through the guided hikes events that we offered in other languages. So we'll continue to work on increasing the rate of those other in-language responses in the future. Right. We received zip code information from over 80% of the respondents. So you can see how on the map, how those the distribution of respondents was geographically. And then in the table on the right-hand side of the screen, that's just highlighting where the top 10 responding zip codes and those communities or neighborhoods where those responses came from. So in this graph, you're seeing age demographic information. The orange bars represent the age of the survey respondent, and then the blue bar represents the age of the of those who respondents indicate joined them out in nature. So this demographic distribution of respondents by age is typical for other past surveying we've done for CV Camp and other projects, with the greatest number of responses received from the age group 50 and above, and thus the reason for some of our targeted outreach this spring to youth, and why we offered guided hikes for high school and middle school age students. And many respondents that were coming with a variety of age groups. And so we see a more representative spread when we ask people who it is joining them out in nature and open space. We asked about, we asked survey participants, what is their current connection to Coyote Valley? Predominantly, they are visiting Coyote Valley for parks and open spaces. Approximately 65% of respondents indicated that. Could be an audience that is likely familiar with the Open Space Authority and perhaps the CV Camp project. And then we heard from 15% of respondents indicated that they rarely or never spend time in Coyote Valley. These could be people who we reached through some of our spring engagement. Also consistent with past surveying, people want to come to Coyote Valley predominantly to enjoy nature, but also exercise. Other responses were split between things like learning about nature, visiting local farms, spending time with family and friends. And then we asked people about their interest in the future of stewardship of Coyote Valley, and received broad interest in things like data collection, land steward activities, and then supporting facilities that were associated with restoration and environmental education. So the survey was focused primarily on those built amenity types for people to enjoy, things that people would use and interact with. So in the next section of the survey, we focused on potential future amenities specific to public access, agriculture, and restoration. And on the public access side, this includes things like bus shelters and staging areas, a welcome and education center, shaded seating, wildlife overlooks and wetland boardwalks, interpretive features, and a nature play area. On the agriculture side, we asked about a farmer serving hub, educational barn and farm stand, as well as an agricultural demonstration area. On the restoration side, we asked about a native plant nursery, native grassland demonstration area, learning gardens, hedgerows. So we asked respondents how important, for their opinion about how important each amenity was, providing two example photos and a brief description for each of the amenities. And there was widespread support for all the amenity types, as you can generally see on the screen here, particularly those which connected people directly with nature and restored habitat, including a wildlife overlook, native grassland demonstration area, wetland boardwalk, and native plant nursery. Those are all in the top 5 for which respondents indicated they find this amenity very important. Agricultural focused amenities tended to receive somewhat less support, so those are kind of clustered at the lower half of the screen. For all 9 built amenity types, shown here in the top half of the screen, between 50 and nearly 80% of respondents indicated that this amenity would either be important or very important. But again, there was generally support for all of the amenity types, with over 60% and up to 90% of respondents indicating that the amenity was at least moderately important. So in the next section of the survey, we asked about the 4 conceptual open space destinations. And as a reminder, these are Laguna Seca, the Laguna Seca Overlook, which could be a new wildlife overlook and overlooking a restored Laguna Seca. The Hillview Hub, which would be a hilltop trail and overlook located at the Santa Teresa and Bailey. This could have a staging area, potential restoration learning gardens, outdoor classroom and picnic area. The Coyote Valley Field Station, the site is located adjacent to the existing Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve and could have expanded parking areas, serving a welcome and education center, agricultural demonstration area, native grassland demonstration area, and other interpretive features. The Agricultural Gateway, located at the corner of Palm and Santa Teresa. Amenities here could include an educational barn or farm stand, farmer serving amenities, which could potentially include housing, and then connections to the other destinations via trail, all of which would be connected via multi-use trail proposed. So at the Laguna Seca Overlook, over 70% of respondents indicated that they would be very interested or extremely interested in visiting this destination in the future. And then when asked to select which 3 amenity types they would most like to see at this destination, top choices were multi-use trail, wildlife overlook, and outdoor shaded seating area. At the Hillview Hub, again, over 70% of respondents indicated that they would be very or extremely interested in visiting the site in the future. And the top 3 amenities there were a hilltop trail and overlook, staging area, and multi-use trail. Again, at the Coyote Valley Field Station, over 70% of respondents would be extremely, very or extremely interested in visiting the future site. We see again, top 3 amenities, multi-use trail coming back, staging area, and then a welcome and education center. At the Agricultural Gateway, just over 60% of respondents indicated that they would be very or extremely interested in visiting. Top amenities there were the farm stand, multi-use trail, and again, staging area. So these 4 destinations compared to each other, you can see at the top of the screen, over 70, so let's see, over 76% of respondents would either be very or extremely interested in visiting the Laguna Seca Overlook, and then the Hillview Hub received the most highest ranking or extremely interested responses, with Laguna Seca and Coyote Valley Field Station following closely behind in that most extremely interested category. At the in-person voting that we conducted at Coyote Valley Discovery Days, you can see those responses at the bottom half of the screen. We received nearly 800 responses. The destination with the most interest was Coyote Valley Field Station. And one thing to note here at those in-person events, we had a lot of families, people with kids, and the maybe nature play and educational welcome and education center component, I think, was a real draw for that, and was something that we heard in responses from people. So in the survey, we received over 160 write-in responses, and these varied. So you can see the things, the bubbles on the left-hand side of the screen, the orange bubbles. There were comments really about providing public access and opening the Eastlands to the public as soon as possible. There were comments similar to those in the turquoise or the right-hand bubbles. The bubbles on the right-hand side of the screen, and those were about really embracing the conservation values of the property and more kind of a desire for less built features on the land. And then we had, comments, something like, make this and, let the experts plan this, and don't think, don't rely on public opinion. So this was, these are kind of representative of those goals that we're balancing through the project. The primary conservation value, primary conservation goals of wildlife and floodplain restoration, and those other goals coming in for public access and cultural heritage and other things like that. So, spring survey, overall takeaways, key takeaways. Again, we had that strong majority, over 60% of respondents expressed moderate or higher interest in all of the amenity types that were presented. There was the most interest in typical open space amenities, those multi-use trails, staging areas, seating and overlooks. Amenities associated with connecting people to a restored habitat received the most support, and then amenities associated with connecting people to agriculture received somewhat more moderate support, moderate interest. And then for all new potential open space destinations, once we packaged those amenities up together into a destination, those received even more support. So at least 60% of respondents indicated across the 4 destinations that they would be very or extremely interested in visiting in the future. All right. So I will wrap it up there and pass it over to Nick if there are no questions from me at this time.
Can you remind us what the staging areas are?
Yeah, so a staging area, it's kind of an open space authority term, but it's in our minds, it's inclusive of a parking lot, a restroom, and kind of a gathering area, a place to kind of launch, collect, gather, and launch into your adventure.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. I just want to, thank Jen for all the work she did to kind of orchestrate all these events. And again, echo her thanks to comms and also thank any of you who showed up. We saw some familiar faces out there and all our volunteers. Like Discovery Days was a big lift for this agency. And I'm really happy with all the turnout that we got and the ability to really get out there and go to where people are versus having them, come here or to a high school gym or something like that. So where are we going with CV Camp? All the ideas that we surveyed people on and more are kind of all out on the table right now. Like the last phase of the project was really focused on dreaming big, putting all the ideas out onto paper, getting them out, getting people interested and talking to them about what they're most interested in. So we have, 3 different options for habitat restoration. We have multiple alignments for potential trails. We have those 4 public use destinations that Jen summarized the survey results on. And each of those destinations, we had 3 different options for like a high, medium, low for how they might be laid out or what amenities might be there. And so now the task in front of us to get the plan to the finish line, to take all those ideas, pull them together into a single holistic conceptual site plan for the project. And that's really the focus of our work over the next year. So to help us start doing that, we are starting to just look at like what's shaking out, like what's kind of rising to the top. And staff conducted a preliminary phasing analysis with our project team, including Post and the city and our consultants, to just evaluate like knowing what we know today, all these ideas that we have on the table, which ones seem to be most ripe. And so that involved breaking down all those concepts into a list of like 70 something potential capital projects. And then we evaluated them based on a series of metrics that you see listed here in the bullets. I'll just go to them very quickly. Like universality, how often did they show up across all the different options? If they showed up in every option, that means, wow, they're probably something that we really care about. Site control. Some of these ideas, we don't have the land to build it yet, or it's on city right of way. So do we have the site control already to implement the concept? Because that can affect how soon we can do it. Grant and legal requirements. In some cases, the money that we use to purchase these lands requires certain things. And so is that something that this concept would achieve? Sequencing. We can't build all of this all at once. Which things do we want to build first that are foundational to future success and implementation of other ideas? Urgency. Is there a critter out there that could really use this right away? Do we want to prioritize doing something for that reason or for other reasons that make something urgent? Concept readiness. Like some of these ideas we've been tossing around for years. We've been thinking about a really long time. Some ideas like nature play are new, something that we've never done before, but how close are we to kind of gelling on what that concept is? Conservation values. So we have conservation easements, legal agreements that cover much of the land that's being planned through CV Camp, and they define habitat restoration, the landscape linkage for wildlife, and water resources as the primary conservation values. So how good are these ideas or elements achieving? How much are they achieving those primary values, or how much are they achieving the secondary conservation values, which are public access, interpretation, cultural resources, agriculture? And then last but not least, everything that Jen just shared. What's rising to the top for community priorities? What are we learning from the public outreach? Kind of put that all in a pot, stirred it together, and started to figure out like what's rising to the top. But the other thing that we're doing that is in progress is these are all kind of blue sky ideas right now, but it's getting to the point where we're going to roll up our sleeves, start preparing cost estimates, and start weighing what it would cost to build different versions of these. And that will be a key aspect of the work we're doing over the coming months. So based on all that, what the project team, and this is a work in progress, but the things that seem to be rising to the top, we divided into 3 main categories: habitat and water, public access and agriculture. I'll go through the first row, rising to the top: Laguna Seca restoration, Tulare Meadows restoration, wildlife connectivity improvements that would make it safer for animals to cross Santa Teresa Boulevard and Bailey Avenue. For public access, the North Laguna Seca overlook, you saw how interested or extremely interested people are in that particular feature. Regional trails that connect the destinations, and that Hillview Hub, the North Caddy Valley Hill, formerly known as Spreckles Hill, opening that up to the public. For agriculture, what we've been hearing and what we've been talking about as a team is really the need to just get the fallow farmlands along Santa Teresa Boulevard leased and get them back in farming. And what do we need to do to improve the infrastructure there to get that going again? And then the bottom row, these are all projects that we still need to talk about. We still have more planning work and discussions to do before we determine whether or not they actually make it into the final plan. And those are things like, what do we do with Mid-County Valley? There's, the restoration visions. We didn't talk about that too much today, but we could potentially move Fisher Creek. We're still figuring that out and restore it to a more natural condition. A native plant nursery. We're still weighing the pros and cons of doing that versus contracting out the growing of native plants that we need for the restoration. On the public access side, we still have more work to do to figure out the best alignment for the regional trails in mid-Coyote Valley, so south of Bailey Avenue. And the whole idea of the Coyote Valley Field Station, building a welcome center. How big should that be? What do we want that to be? How much demand is there for that is something we're going to be discussing over the coming months. And then finally, for agriculture, the agritourism side of things. We heard a great comment from one of the farmers, like, don't build a farm stand until you have things to sell on it. I mean, it makes sense, right? So we really want to prioritize first, getting the farm fields activated and then look at things that are more agritourism focused. But those ideas are still on the table. I'm just saying they need more discussion and more planning. Next steps. Right now, we're doing additional hydrological modeling to make sure that the water goes where we want it to go and it's not flooding things we don't want it to flood as we do our restoration actions. We're preparing preliminary cost estimates, as I mentioned, and we are trying to catch up with, in partnership with the San Jose Department of Transportation and BTA, we're catching up street design for Santa Teresa Boulevard and Bailey Avenue with all the concepts for the actual CV camp plans that you've seen. A remainder of 26, focusing on creating that holistic conceptual site plan, doing more detailed cost estimates, talking more about phasing, coming back to the board, and the CAC should be on that side and update it with an update towards the end of the year. And then 27 and 28, one final round of public engagement once we kind of have like a solid concept site plan for the whole area, and then moving into plan document preparation and environmental review. So that's where we're headed. We're happy to answer any questions or hear any feedback. Thank you so much.
No point. I don't think there's any questions. I just saw.
No, for sure.
Oh, for sure you have a question? Okay.
Oh, Liz.
Lauren has a question.
All right.
Lauren's question, I just saw an opportunity. You shared some data about the demographic 18 to 24. I know they're getting outside. I know they're doing things like coffee shop, music stuff, and all this fun stuff. So just, it seems like that's a real opportunity to engage with that demographic specifically and get them a little bit more involved. So just want to share that.
Thank you.
Lauren, and then after Lauren, anybody else?
Nick and Jennifer, thank you so much. I remember being involved with you guys early on from this project, and it's been like kind of amazing to see it like run its course, and you guys have done such a great job. I've got a list of questions. You can kind of just pick and choose. You talk about capital project management. In my world, we have a very strict definition of what is a capital project versus an expense or operations project, and it's usually defined by a monetary value. Is that the same for you? Also, I hear us talk a lot about access to the land versus protecting the land. I understand that we are different from the county parks in terms of prioritizing protection over access, if to put it very simply. But anything that you could say in 2 sentences about how you're approaching this for this project would be very helpful or interesting. I should say interesting to me. Farming leases, that was a very interesting comment that you're soliciting folks that will take on this land. I would love to hear how that works. Housing for the workers, amazing. What a great idea. If you could say 2 more sentences about that, I'm done.
All right. Thank you. Through the chair, I can try to go through those one by one, if that's okay. All right. So for the capital improvement plan, we are going to be working on that right now. There will be a monetary threshold. I don't know if one of my colleagues can remind me what we settled on for that, but it'll be the first kind of real CIP that the agency's done.
So, above 100,000?
That's us too.
No. So that's in progress. And for CV Camp, the concepts will still be, still in development when we do our first CIP. So they'll likely be placeholder figures because we're not quite there yet with, having things locked in. Access approach. I think I would use surgical and strategic. Like, this land is so sensitive and so key to the landscape linkage. We definitely want to have people out there. We want to connect them. to this landscape. I think the reason why the North Coyote Valley Hill or the Hilltop Hub is rising to the top as something that we want to really advance forward sooner rather than later is because with that short trail to the top of the hill, you're able to see the whole landscape and we can interpret the whole landscape. Even if you're not maybe walking out in the marsh, you can see that transformation occur over time if we can open up access to that. So where can we get the biggest bang for our buck, I think, when it comes to access? Farming leases, Anna or Aaron can chime in more, but we're still figuring out like what's the right size of acreage we want to divide up. It's about 300 acres of farmland that we're looking at in CV Camp, right? And that's not including grazing. That's like cultivated ag land that we're going to have in the project area. We still have work to do to figure out what the right size is for those potential leases, and then there will likely be RFPs to get farmers, under lease.
Can I follow up real quick on that? Through the chair. So what does that look like? How do you find qualified candidates? Anybody that's willing to populate the land or, thank you, Aaron.
Through the chair, Aaron Aber, Natural Resources Manager. So yeah, our request for proposal process, that's how we find our tenants, just like we sort of put anything out to bid in some sense. And for each property, we're looking for certain qualifications. I'll say, on some properties, we might be open to new and beginning farmers because it's like better set up and we feel like they're more successful. On other properties, we might be looking for someone more experienced because the property infrastructure needs a lot of love and you might need sort of more of a capitalized operation. And then I think there are those kind of like community and cultural type benefits. So we're still defining those for some of the CV Camp properties in particular, but almost anything can grow in this area. Some of our areas kind of have high groundwater, so they're not good for trees and stuff like that, but for row crops. So we're still kind of winnowing it down, but we have a open process. I'll say on prior requests for proposal, we've gotten quite a bit of interest from a variety of different folks.
Could you talk a little bit more about like what makes us attractive to them? And I swear I'll stop.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, land access is like #1 issue for farmers, whether you're like a farmer who's just graduated from Alba, which is like a farm training program down in Salinas, or you're an existing farmer, but you want to scale up to make your operations more economical. So land access is kind of everything. So frankly, it might not be us per se, it might just be the opportunity, but I think we do offer some advantages as a landlord. So, yeah.
Thank you, Aaron.
And I'll just add that the focus is the fallow lands along Santa Teresa that were the walnut orchard. So that's where we see the most opportunity to get new farmers out there because we have wonderful existing tenants we want to continue to work with on the agricultural side. The last question was housing. We're looking at farm manager housing. So 1 or 2 units is kind of what we've been talking about internally. There's still a lot more discussion to go through there. That would be a big change and a big lift for the authority to take on managing housing for farm manager, but it's something we're looking into.
All right, thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you for all that information. I'm noticing that ag in your survey was kind of down a little bit. I'm wondering if there was, and I'm glad to see you guys are more interested in getting a lot of these fallow fields back in operation. If there was more of a link presented to the public of how agricultural lands, whether they're cultivated, even if they are cultivated, are still providing wildlife linkage.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just thinking maybe the public doesn't realize that.
Yeah. I mean,
Folks that you interview.
Yeah, something if I could through the chair, it makes me the agricultural response, something that it brings up for me, and I think something that I've heard through honest work on the farm program vision is around educating the public about the benefits of agriculture and that connection to our local agriculture, and getting people excited about that. What resonated with people was the things that we're known for and the things that they typically, come to visit the Open Space Authority for. So we'll see where it all goes, Miguel.
Yeah, that might be something you might want to penetrate into more,
Right.
because people like food.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it there.
And yeah, through the chair, if I may add, just a little bit too, to what Jen was saying, very much appreciate your comment, Justin, and you're right, people, people need to eat, right? And very often the connection to agriculture isn't made, because people see the food at the grocery store, not out in the field. And so, that ongoing public education, as Jen was explaining, is something that's extremely important and we are working on. And I just also want to mention that we've heard from our board over years, the importance of supporting agriculture, because if it isn't us, what other agency is out there doing that in our region? So we've heard from our board on that as a priority for us. So it's important from a number of standpoints.
And if I could add just one more thought on that, the survey results were still strong for the agricultural elements too, right? It's just in comparison to the things, as Jen mentioned, that we're more known for. So I see it as an opportunity for growth and to get people more excited about agriculture.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of opportunities there to connect that. Lonnie has a question, comment, and then Ed.
Hey, everybody. I saw most of the presentation on Zoom, so I was driving over. But I had a question on timeline for these areas that you're looking to fill, especially for agriculture and for the farms. Is there a timeline that we're aware of, or is it that the land, I don't know if it's gonna be empty for a little period of time? So that was my question, is essentially timeline for this.
It's a great question. So CV Camp has to go through CEQA, and I think that's the big unknown, is how long that's going to take. Right. So there's also the need to, some of the fields needed some work, they need irrigation. So how quickly can we tee those things up? So I think we're looking at, after 2028 to like really have people out there. And in the meantime, it's short-term leases. I don't know, Anna or Aaron, if you have anything to add.
I'll just say CEQA being the California Environmental Quality Act and the environmental review that we'll do on the plan.
Hello. Yes, so through the chair, I think that we're actively working on trying to activate these fallow lands. And in the meantime, they're not sitting fallow necessarily. What we're doing is we're really trying to build up soil health. We're implementing practices like cover cropping. We're really trying to understand the infrastructure needs and doing well assessments and really trying to, like Nick kind of alluded to, really set farmers up for success when we open up these lands for lease. So that they are having successful agricultural enterprises and operations on these farmlands. So it takes some time. We're trying to do it as quickly as we can, but we also want to do it right. And so we want to make sure that we're being intentional about when we're opening these up and their status when they are opened up. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I see a lot of opportunity there for some social posts on what's happening and what's going on between now and 2028. That could be really engaging. Yeah, yeah, it could be really engaging. YouTube's moving into their little shorts videos as well too, something else to explore for the comms team. But I know Ed had a comment, unless Mark, did you have some to go back?
But if I may just to respond to your comment just now, yeah, we do put a lot of information out about agriculture in our social media. You've probably seen many of those posts. And they often don't do as well as other information, like about the preserves and hiking opportunities, etc. But it is important to get out there, and over time, we're educating people. Also, relevant to that, we see similar responses to what the CV Camp team found in their surveys when we've done election polling, right? Because agriculture often doesn't perform as well as things like clean air and clean water. And really, again, people need food. It's just a matter of making that connection for folks, and it has to be done over and over again in many different ways. And so any suggestions, like you were just saying, you know, videos or other opportunities, please bring them forward.
I think the campaign's called People Need Food and we can go from there. Sorry, sorry, Ed had a comment as well to her question.
Yeah, I know I mentioned this to you once a long time ago, Nick, but we're funding on Santa Teresa or Monterey, or whoever's in charge of getting grant money. I hope they're aware of the measure 2016 ETA Measure B tax. There are two categories in there for streets, fleet streets, and bike and ped, that this should qualify for, although you would probably have to partner with either San Jose, Morgan Hill, or the county to get that. So whoever's looking for some money for anything to do with those issues along Santa Teresa and Monterey should check that out. And if you want to email me, I can give you more information on it.
You,
Anyone.
through the chair, thank you for that suggestion. We have an application in for a VTA grant right now for working with them to do bus stop design improvements for Caddy Valley and a trail that goes right from the bus stop to the top of the North Caddy Valley Hill. So
Good.
fingers crossed.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. I'm on that oversight committee for VTA, so
Awesome. Thank you.
just aware of those two that you got any. No, we just have to scrutinize VTA, that's all. But there's those two categories. It sounds like they're aware of. It could be a source for more than just what you're talking about there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any more questions or comments? No? All right, well, thank you so much. It was a very exciting presentation. It sounds like there's a lot more to come and we're excited to see just how this develops.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are going to move on to receive a presentation on the Open Space Authority Farm Vision Plan findings.
Thank you. Good evening, committee members. My name is Ana Regalado and I'm the agricultural specialist here at the Open Space Authority. And today I wanted to share some project updates for the farm program vision, as well as the draft vision and goals that we've created this far. This might sound new to some of you, and this project was formerly called the Agricultural Strategic Plan. And so in the process of its creation, it's gotten a little bit of a renaming. And the last time we presented on this was in November. And so just for some context and a little bit of a reminder, this project and vision is really meant to inform the authority's agricultural work overall, not just in a specific area, and it will help inform projects like agricultural planning and CV Camp and others over the years. Yeah. So the recommendation today is just to receive an update on the farm program vision draft, specifically the draft vision and goals, and let us know if you have any thoughts or questions about it at this point in time. We are about halfway through the creation of the vision. And so what I'll be sharing today is a little bit more of the initial research findings and where we've landed on that long-term vision and goals. And what comes after this is the creation of a really detailed 5-year action plan to create objectives to work towards that long-term vision and goals. And so we won't talk about that action plan yet. It's still in the works, but that is something that is to come in the next few months. So today we'll just review and make sure that everybody's on the same page with some important county agricultural context and history. We'll also highlight some of the authority's agricultural work to date, and then we'll go into that draft vision and goal for the farm program vision. So to begin, I just wanted to set the stage by providing some key context on the benefits and statistics of agriculture in Santa Clara County. So from an economic point of view, agriculture is a very productive industry. You can see here that in 2024, the gross production value of Santa Clara Valley crops was close to $390 million. And in a 2014 study that looked at the economic contributions of agriculture overall to Santa Clara County, it cited that, in 2014, agriculture employed over 8,100 workers annually, and it also contributed, roughly $830 million to the Santa Clara County economy annually. And in addition to the economic benefits, agriculture provides a lot of really important climate benefits, such as ecosystem services like cleaner water, cleaner air, food as one of the primary, productive pieces of agriculture. And while it's really hard to put a price tag on those kinds of benefits and ecosystem services, some rough estimates start at about $600 per acre per year for farmland, up to $1,800 per acre that those ecosystem services bring in value. And in addition to that, we know that farmland is a great way to mitigate and prevent more climate change. As you see here in the Santa Clara Valley Ag Plan, one of my favorite figures is that 1 acre of farmland produces about 77 times fewer greenhouse gas emissions than 1 acre of development. So it's really important to keep farmland as farmland, and also when managed correctly, it could also be used as a tool to continue to mitigate climate change by bringing down more carbon from the atmosphere and sequestering it in the soil. And all of these benefits wouldn't be contributed unless it was, without the farmers that really steward those lands. And some stats on them: in 2022, at the last agricultural census for Santa Clara County, they were operating about 825 farms in the county. And those farm sizes ranged in size greatly, but the majority of them, close to 80%, were 50 acres or less. And so what that means is that in our county, we're really a county of small and mid-sized farmers. And the people running those farms, the slight majority of them are between the ages of 35 and 65 and really in their productive career years. But close to 42% are also close to retirement age. And so what that means, that's a trend that we see nationwide. We're not immune to it here in Santa Clara County. And what that means is that it's more important now than ever to continue to invest in these agricultural systems, in its viability overall, so that as those farmers are aging out, new producers can come in and feel like they have a successful shot at continuing agriculture in this area. In 2022, 31% of producers that filled out that census identified themselves as being new and beginning farmers. And so that statistic bodes really well for, bringing in a new stream of farmers into our region. And, beyond the facts and figures here, if you look at the land, right here, this map shows you in yellow our existing farmland resource. And so that really is our remaining farmland in the county. And while it does make up, several thousands of acres of county land, it is a much smaller footprint than it used to be. And in, the past 30 years alone, Santa Clara Valley has lost over 2,100 acres, 21,000 acres of farmland and rangeland to development. And so now more than ever, those pressures persist. And you can see that highlighted here in the purple areas. Those dark purple lines are the urban growth boundaries, and the light purple sort of background is the city limits. And so any farmland that you see fall within those boundaries is naturally at a larger risk of conversion and development pressures, simply because it is, has been included in those plans as the potential to be developed. But the great news is that, agencies like ours, like the authority, has already done a great job protecting farmland. And so you'll see on this map here that we've protected about, over 1,000 acres of farmland, and this doesn't include rangeland. And this has been done through easements, through acquisitions, and in partnership with, the Peninsula Open Space Trust and others to really make this a reality. And we're not the only ones doing this work. There's also, land trusts out there, like the Land Trust of Santa Clara Valley, that is also working to protect agricultural land. And so, in addition to doing and continuing this work of agricultural land protection, we've also been involved in supporting agricultural planning efforts. One of a large one, which was the Santa Clara Valley Ag Plan in 2018. So we wrote that with the county. And it was really meant to be a North Star for how the county was going to support agriculture in the long term. And it created, through a lot of research, a lot of engagement with partners and with stakeholders, a set of 4 focus areas that you see here, focus around land use policy, regional ag conservation easements, agricultural economic development strategies, and also branding, education, and awareness strategies, which we've heard today and we know are really critical and important to continue support for agriculture. And within those 4 focus areas, there was also a collection of 12 objectives that was created. And so I wanted to bring this agricultural plan up because it is a really important stepping stone to kind of set the stage for where we're going now into the future. This plan really set the initial implementation framework for how the county and its partners should support agriculture. And the Open Space Authority was named in 2 of the 12 objectives to be the leader for establishing a regional conservation easement purchasing program and for working to develop and launch a Santa Clara Valley agriculture campaign. And this was back in 2018. And so since then, with partners, there have been several strides towards accomplishing these objectives. But in addition to this, the Open Space Authority has also done a great deal more work. And so part of this farm program vision process is to be able to continue to strategize around the ways that we could support agriculture beyond what has been defined for us in the agricultural plan from 2018. And so to kind of highlight a few more of those accomplishments, I have this timeline here that really shows, some of our first work in agriculture started back in 2003. And that was with the purchase and the creation of the first agricultural conservation easement on 300 acres of farmland in the Pajaro Valley. And since then, in the 23 years since that first conservation easement, we've done a lot more work to support agriculture, including continuing to protect agricultural lands through acquisitions and partnerships, creating plans like the Green Plan and the Ag Plan to continue to guide our work, and investing in farmland infrastructure and restoration projects. And now, really working to define our work further through the creation of our farm program vision. And really taking the next step to go beyond the agricultural plan and envision, how we will support agriculture, the ways that we want to define our niche for agriculture, and how we also want to work with partners to do so into the future. And, before we get to the creation of this wonderful vision with an action plan and really get steeped in the work, there was a lot of research that we had to do. And, this is outreach and research that took place in the fall and winter of 2025 and 26. And it started with farmers and partners. With farmers, we did a lot of one-on-one direct outreach and engagement and conducted 18 interviews on farm, on Zoom, whatever way the farmers could talk to us and was easiest for them. And this was mainly with vegetable producer-focused agricultural producers. And they were all within Santa Clara County, and we tried to reach a large diversity of these producers. Some of them were tenants on OSA lands, some of them weren't, some of them were in very urbanized areas of the county, and some of them were in more rural areas. And we learned through those conversations what their challenges were, what needs were rising to the top, and what resources they were really asking for, and are using those to help inform our plan and our work in the coming years. In addition to that, we also spoke with our partners. We recognize that this work is very multifaceted and is a really heavy lift at times. And so it's important that we work to collaborate with other organizations, not only to be successful, but also to be efficient in how we're doing this work. So we spoke with several government agencies, several other institutions, and nonprofits to really understand what are the existing resources that are out there for farmers now, so that we're not duplicating efforts and reinventing the wheel if it's already being done successfully. And also, what are the ways that we can continue to partner with folks, as well as identifying those gaps, right? Who isn't working on something? Who isn't providing certain resources that farmers are asking for? And using all of that information to inform the steps that we take into the future. In addition to that, we did a lot of reading, a lot of homework. We read up on all of these existing plans, and we really took a look, and not only locally, but also at the state level. What are the initiatives that are happening? What are the policies that are getting put into place? And what are the ways that we can continue to catalyze on these efforts, both regionally and statewide, to be able to continue to do this work? And, through that, we've identified a long list of challenges and also of opportunities that we can begin to address through this work. Many of them we knew about, right? We knew about the challenge of land conversion and consolidation here in Santa Clara County and in other areas. We knew about the challenge of land access, as we've heard talked about earlier today, and how hard it is for farmers to find land and keep it, right? Having that long land tenure, and how that often leads to limitations in, on-farm investments from their end. If you can't have a lease longer than a year or two, you don't know if you want to put in a fence or put in that barn, because you don't know if you'll be, on that land long enough to be able to see the benefits of that investment. And with addressing those challenges, there's a lot of opportunities that we can, sort of catalyze on to be able to do the work, right? We have a really unique geography here in Santa Clara Valley. We can grow things almost year round. And our climate and our history here being the Valley of Heart's Delight and that heritage that we have here of agriculture really sets the stage for us to continue this work. In addition to that, there's a lot of county and regional momentum happening. At the county, over the past year alone, they've hired 3 new positions to be able to support agriculture and food system work at large. And so continuing to work with folks, build on that energy is a really great opportunity that we have here, as well as continuing to work with existing, new, and beginning farmers, with those stakeholders and the people that are on the ground day in and day out, stewarding these lands and really, putting in the work to nourish our communities and our lands, as well as engaging with the public. The Open Space Authority has a long history of that. And so continuing to build on that reputation and experience is a really unique opportunity for us here with this project. And so all of those challenges, all of that research, all of that information has led to the creation, this really first draft of what we're calling our 30-year vision statement. It might not be 30 years, it might be longer, we might take the time frame out, but really just this idea that, what, if we do this work successfully with partners, what might we see in 30 years or in the future? And so I'll read this to you now, but it basically says that the Open Space Authority, in collaboration with key partners, is a leader in building a resilient agricultural sector in Santa Clara Valley that is home to permanently protected, multi-benefit agricultural resource areas, a diversity of successful farming operations supporting the livelihoods of current and future farmers, a resilient agricultural economy linked with local and regional food systems, healthy agricultural lands that deliver vital ecosystem services, and engaged communities that are champions for agriculture in the valley. And so this is a very ambitious vision, but I think one that, is a really good guiding vision to work towards over the next, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And this vision statement, along with the 5 goals that I'll run through next, are really meant to be that compass, that North Star for us. It's where we're going, it's where we want to land, and at the very least, it's where we hope to get close to in the future to be able to, say that we've done our work successfully. But yeah, and this won't be the only part of the plan. We know that it's great to have a vision, it's great to have lofty goals, but it's also important to know how you're getting there. And so that action plan that I mentioned earlier, something that we're crafting right now, is really the nitty-gritty of how we're going to get there in the next 5 years. And then the goal beyond that would be, after 5 years, we reassess and create another 5-year action plan that takes into account the changes, in the past 5 years, our successes, our learnings, and continue on in that manner. Hopefully, getting 1 year to this vision being a reality. Yeah, I'll go into the goals now. And feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions about the goals and sort of what they might mean, or if you have, any curiosities about them. Yes.
You said you're focusing mostly on vegetables, I think. And I was wondering about fruit, and I was just also wondering if that would include grapes. Sure. And why not fruit? And why vegetables?
Yeah, I think for the initial surveying, we focus mostly on vegetable farmers because those tend to be the row crop farmers. A lot of them do produce sometimes as well fruit, but sometimes they don't exclusively do that. Many of the producers that we surveyed are mixed producers, and so they do both. And I don't think at this point we've, primarily decided one versus the other. I think this is really looking more holistically at a holistic approach for farmland itself. How we might be able to activate it and what the needs are for those kinds of producers that might need more infrastructure, wash pack, have those kinds of needs as, mixed produce, vegetable or fruit producers as well.
So you surveyed vegetable producers, but that's not to say that that's the exclusive focus of the plan.
Yeah, and many of the vegetable producers also weren't solely vegetable producers either. Many of them ended up being, they also produce fruit. Some of them had poultry, other livestock that they also tended. They ended up in the end, it ended up being more, I would say diverse producers in terms of their offerings and their products. A lot of them, one of the focuses too is that we did survey folks that were smaller scale. So some of them were operating on as small of an acre. And we did also focus on folks that had really large scale operations that were operating on hundreds of acres as well. So we tried to get a diversity of folks in there. But I think the one defining thing was that many of them were operating on row crop lands. Yes. Great. I'll continue on. So to work towards this vision, the first goal that we have is around permanently protecting farmland. And this is something that we've identified as, having been a goal of the authority, but really spelling it out, make sure that we continue to have it as a focus. And the goal here is to identify and permanently protect agricultural land through different mechanisms with a priority on lands that deliver multiple benefits within defined agricultural resource areas. And so in addition to this, the next goal is focused on land access and improvements on OSA-owned lands and managed lands. So this is to manage open space authority agricultural lands, to provide equitable farmland access, support viable agricultural operations, protect natural resources, and model effective public-private partnerships. And this one, these first two goals really are focused on what are OSA's strengths and where do we have a lot of leadership capabilities, right? That is in managing our own lands and in continuing to do what we do really well, which is land protection and conservation. The next three goals are really rooted in partnering with other organizations to be successful. And with partners that are already doing a lot of this work, and also in growing our work a little bit in terms of in the agricultural realm. So goal 3 is around sustainable agricultural practices and accelerating their adoption on farmland across Santa Clara Valley in partnership with other agricultural support entities to restore and enhance soil, water, biodiversity, and habitat resources. And this goal really gets to that comment earlier about how when you manage agricultural lands responsibly, they can be a solution to climate change, to some of the, natural disasters that we see coming up. They help with flood prevention. They help, when we're facing fire risk. And so being able to do this, we think is a really important part of this work as well. Goal 4 is around an economically resilient agricultural sector. We recognize that, agricultural lands protected are really great, but if the agricultural industry around it isn't successful, if there's no farmers there to be able to steward it, then the lands stay fallow. And so this is a really important part and piece of this work. And so it is about promoting an economically resilient and diverse agricultural sector through policy and project advocacy at the local, regional, and state levels, and through participation in food system, working lands, and conservation collaboratives and cross-sector partnerships. This is really about making sure that the farmers that are involved in these projects that are stewarding this land are able to continue on and have resilient businesses and be sustainable in their operations. And then the last goal, which is one we've been talking about a lot tonight and we think is incredibly important, is fostering that community connection to agriculture and fostering those opportunities for the public to connect with local agriculture and gain awareness of its multiple benefits and become champions for a thriving agricultural sector to ensure the long-term resilience of Santa Clara Valley agriculture, right? I think we all know that without being aware of something and its importance, it's hard to support it and want to make sure that it continues. So this is really pivotal as well. And this will be done, in partnership with other folks that are already trying to move these initiatives forward. But these are the 5 goals that we have laid out right now in their draft form. And in terms of project next steps, we are currently drafting, the actual document, the narrative around this vision, all of our reasoning, all of our findings, as well as that 5-year implementation plan. And in the late summer, we'll work to collect partner feedback on the farm program vision, and the, draft actions and objectives that we'll put forward as that. We want to make sure that if we want to partner with folks on it, that they're also interested and able to be able to continue this work with us. And in the fall, we'll present, the board with a completed farm program vision document and recommendation, and then go from there to begin implementing pieces of this plan and this work. But now, I would like to turn it all over to you and see if you had any questions or comments about this project.
We have a lot, so I like to take my little roll call for everybody. So I see Lonnie, Lauren, and then Matt. Okay. Lonnie, Lauren. Thank you for this presentation. It was great. But I have some questions regarding the educational part. I know that we don't want to go too deep into what that looks like, the strategies for the branding, education, and awareness looks like, but I guess I'm trying to think of the educational part, because I know that this is, like you said, and everyone is aware, this is a very big problem in the US, the concept of who is next in line to take on these farms, because I don't know if all of you remember going to college, but becoming a farmer was not necessarily on those, the list of things you want to do when you grow up, right? And I don't think it's talked about nearly enough. I'm not sure if it's really prevalent in public school curriculum. I know it is a part of some of these other schools that are kind of off the beaten path. But in terms of education, I guess that's what I want to ask about is there a goal in mind? I know goal 5 kind of fits it, but I'm thinking of, are you thinking of partnering with high schools, public schools, universities to start looking to create curriculum and interest to get kids excited about the possibility that it's a reality that they could do this as a career, as a job?
Yeah, so through the chair, I think that this is a really great question and one that we're really discussing right now. It's kind of tricky to have these conversations at the goal level because they are so lofty. And the reason for that is that we want these goals to be enduring so that as the educational needs change over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we're able to adapt them without being tied to what the goal specifically says. And so in these conversations, we're asking ourselves those questions exactly, right? Like, what are our tactics? Do we try to, who are our who will our target audience be in these first 5 years? Is it the general public? Is it K through 12? Is it, other partners? Will our work be on building out our capacity? Will it be on partnering with others like 4-H programs, like FFA programs, Future Farmers of America programs is that acronym, and other programs that exist in the county that are already doing that work and uplifting what they do even more. And so we are still identifying what that is, and I'll have a better answer for you in the fall when we come back with that completed plan. But just to let you know that we are thinking about that, and we do recognize that there is, there's a lot of opportunity there. And in having those discussions, the objectives around goal 5 were the ones that had the most ideas and the most creativity around them, which is exciting. And now being able to choose which ones we'll be able to do successfully in the next 5 years is our task that we have now.
Thank you so much. A lot of us elder millennials would love to believe we can leave everything and become farmers.
Yeah.
And just be happy.
Yeah.
But we are past a certain age point. Many of us are past a certain age. So I know it's gotta be those younger than us. So yeah, that was the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lonnie. Lauren?
I kind of want to coattail Lonnie, like, because that's kind of my concern too. But I want to take it from a different angle, which doesn't surprise me. Lonnie taking it from the educational and me taking it from the how are we gonna, I think of sports because that's what I think of a lot of things. And we just had the World Cup and the USA didn't do well because our athletes do more lucrative things. These sports aren't better, they're just more lucrative. So while we need education and outreach, how do we convince these kids that they can drive the same cars as their colleagues being farmers, right? and I'm looking at my main man, Justin. And I would be interested in your input on this too, right? Like you're a fourth generation guy, a
Yeah.
fifth generation guy, or, okay, and you got sixth generation in your house. If you're lucky and you have 3 kids, maybe 1 or 2 wants to do what you're doing when they get older, right? It's not many generations before that hits 0. So
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Thank you. Thank you, Lauren, for your question. I think that many people are sort of grappling with this. I think, right, as I mentioned, this is a large systemic issue that we're facing nationwide. And I think part of it is due to, the fact that the cost of living is getting more expensive. And I think that's why goal number 4 around, yes, goal number 4 around the economic viability is so important because, without that supportive policy, without those supportive systems to make sure that these systems are resilient, it's really hard to continue them on. And so this is really about, continuing to do the policy work that we're doing, working with our, our staff to continue that on from the agricultural perspective, and being able to create supportive systems locally, statewide, regionally, to be able to continue to support that. In addition to conducting, educational programs and sharing about the importance of this. And one of the exciting pieces of this work that I'll say is that even in the past 6 years alone, we've come, I think the general public is starting to gain a greater consensus and sort of importance around local food, right? We saw firsthand in COVID when, these supply chains were breaking down and, food insecurity was on the rise, how important it is to build up local food systems. And so I think that in combination with some of these other tactics will continue to provide support for agriculture, and being really strategic around how we're supporting it will continue to be important. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Justin, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I'll add something real quick here, real quick. When I was in high school, it wasn't that long. Currently, you mentioned FFA, we talked about education. Currently, Santa Clara County has 4 FFA chapters. Gilroy High School, Morgan Hill, and Sobrato, both Morgan Hill, and Campbell at Westmont High School. When I was in school, didn't have Sobrato, but we had the other 3, because Sobrato didn't exist at that time. Leland, Lincoln, Pioneer, Willow Glen, Gunderson, all these other schools in San Jose all had FFA chapters. They're all gone now. Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with school districts dropping the funding for it, and they lose the program. So, I mean, in order to keep those programs going, I mean, the education has to go to these school boards to say, hey, look, this is what we need in order to keep agriculture in this area. If you want to keep it starting at education in the high school or even before that, these programs need to still be in operation. And we need to at the very least, try to maintain the ones we have.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing to add there too is that in addition to that, one of the things that we're seeing is that there are also a great deal of farm incubator programs, not in Santa Clara County, but surrounding our areas that are trying to do this work more at the internship, early career, college level as well. UC Santa Cruz has a really great training program. Aaron mentioned Alba down in Salinas that works to train farm workers to become farm owners. And so there's a lot of these pathways. And a lot of it is about awareness, but it also, to Justin's point, is about making sure that that those programs are sustained at the local level, at the regional level, and that they have also somewhere to go once they graduate from those programs. But yeah.
Thank you, Chair, for the quick follow-up. And Justin, that was very useful. So I will ask a question that I don't expect to be answered tonight, but then how do we project those incentives forward? Like a lot of those programs won't be coming back anytime soon, and we can all hope that they do and do what we can to bring those programs back. But how do we make this with incentive and interesting to these generations going forward? Justin, I propose a barbecue at your house, and I'll bring every young person in.
I wish I knew. I knew what you knew. Mary, you have more experience with school boards and school districts. You might have a little insight on that. I hate to put you on the spot, but you might be a little better to answer this.
Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, I was gonna say, having served on the school board, both Sobrato High School and Live Oak High School, of course, serve South San Jose and Morgan Hill and San Martin. That's a lot of students. FFA is huge at those two schools and the kids are excited. I always say put the kids in front of the elected officials and put the kids in front of the funders. They're the best spokespeople. They are so well trained, as both us, all Justin's kids are among those who are just so well trained, so well put together, and they can speak better than anybody else on the benefits of farming and agriculture and animal husbandry than anybody else. So that's the way to sell, I think, the industry and the future careers of those individuals.
Thank you, Mary. I think Bonnie had to go back. Dan Mark has a comment. And then Joe's gonna comment.
Okay, this is absolutely the thought process I was having, because we're in the middle of Silicon Valley, so kids who come to school here traditionally are thinking they're gonna have tech jobs and six-figure incomes. And I think that's the translation. I think there needs to be some sort of an understanding. How do I make money doing this versus, you know, I don't think kids understand it. I barely understand it. So I think it sounds really base and not very attractive, but I feel like that's what the kids need to know. They can make money and survive.
Or a lifestyle.
And a lifestyle, or choose, you know, have a work-life balance, but I don't know what it is, but I mean, these kids are choosing to be influencers over other things now because they can quantify and manage how much they make. And I think they're really smart. So I don't know what that's gonna translate to, but it doesn't seem like a very fun thing to do. So good luck. Okay.
We're happy to help.
It's like, happy to help, yes.
A youthful streamer on Twitch to go out and show everyone how cool farming is. Okay, Beth, it's your turn to comment.
Yeah, my main question was actually exactly the same thing we just discussed. So my second question though was regarding water. So to farm in the Coyote Valley, is there enough water from our own watershed to grow all those crops, or do we have to bring it from far, far away, which maybe creates other challenges?
Yeah, so I think in Coyote Valley specifically, we're currently still assessing the water capabilities, but I think at this point that we're pretty confident to say that because of the high water table, because of, you know, the hydrologic resources in that area, it is still very viable. Sometimes it might be a little too wet in the winter to get in there with equipment, so it depends on the kind of farming that you do. We have the opposite problem in certain areas, that it's too wet to farm because of the soil conditions and the water conditions. But it is something that we're looking closely at. And as a part of, you know, the sustainable agricultural goals, we want to make sure that the agriculture that we're supporting is able to continue on for a long time. And that means taking care of water resources. That means taking care of soil resources and being responsible in how we're utilizing those. But it is a piece of this work that we'll continue to explore. And I don't know right now, because we're still working through the objectives, what that means specifically on the ground, but I imagine it could be things like doing well assessments, making sure that the irrigation is good, making sure that we're in good partnership with farmers and communicating about, you know, if there are any leaks, if things like that come up on OSA lands, and being able to address those as quickly as possible. Yeah, thank you for your question.
All right, Joe?
Yes, great discussions. However, I think, you know, getting back to the educating the kids, we need to let them know, of course, it's all about money really for kids, really. You know, they want to get the quick bucks, and if they want to start farming, how much work would be involved, but to be able to realize how much dollars are available, and I'm sure Justin knows, but just to get that information out, just to tease them enough to say, take a second look at something else that might be able to give them more longevity as well. I mean, farming and agriculture, that could be long lasting for a lot of people, even the kids. If they get their kids involved, that will be able to help the industry and or the area.
Yeah.
Yes, Mary?
I think it is important to note that there's young people who want lots of different things in their lives, and there's a lot of young people who are interested in a lot more than money, and we know them. And also being outdoors is another huge pitch for young people. I think there's a significant number of young people who look at a life in a cubicle in Silicon Valley and just want to vomit. So I think if we could grab those young people and suggest that, you know, spending a life outdoors or a good part of your time outdoors is also another huge benefit to a life in agriculture and other areas. And money, I think there's a significant number of kids that understand money isn't everything.
You hiring Justin?
Survival.
Justin,
Survival.
you're still- that's all we can
Yeah, Madam Chair, and Anna, was just thinking as I was listening to all of you, you know, over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, we've had a really fruitful partnership with Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. And it's just been so rewarding to work with those youth on climate. This agency could look at something very similar with FFA. And so I just encourage you to propose these kinds of ideas. And then I want to encourage you, Anna, as we get closer to you coming back to the CAC, if you could share early on kind of what some of those implementation actions might look like, so that the CAC can come prepared to say, oh, I love implementation action number 1 and 3, but I have another one we might think about. That's the time to do it. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess my final comment is I'm someone who's literally sprouted a program for the water industry from concept to design to implementation and now fully funded. And so like as you're looking for your farm plan, really find opportunities for partnerships. I think that really does help to expand your voice and also lessen the load that you have to do. Open Space Authority is not a, farm content curriculum writing, agency, but there's some out there that are. And so just being able to partner, amplify the voices, amplify the messaging. I agree there are some students that don't want to work in cubicles. I think that there's a huge movement right now also for people to be returning to the lands, to learn how to grow their own food, to be more self-sufficient. So there's a lot of opportunities for the authority to kind of take, I guess, be on trend, but then also trend setting as well too. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's just a final comment. I will say I did grow up in San Jose. I spent most of my life within Silicon Valley, and I ended up in the agricultural industry. So I think there's lots of folks that do want to continue doing that work to mirror all the comments you said. Yeah. Any final questions or thoughts? And if any come up, you can always reach out to me and let me know, and I'm happy to continue talking about this. It is my favorite thing to talk about. So thank you all for your time today. And yeah, thanks so much.
All right, we are getting down to our 4th presentation. This is going to be a great one. We're going to be receiving information on the Measure D.
Good evening, CAC members. Assistant General Manager Mark Landgraf, and I'm going to be accompanied by Lee Rauscher, our other Assistant General Manager. But I'll get things started tonight with first a quick recap of Measure D, and then a description from Lee primarily about how it's being implemented. So please feel free to ask questions along the way, but we'll try and keep this tight because we know we're running short on time tonight. So if I can have the next slide, I think that's under my control. There we go. So first of all, I just want to note that the last time we met as a body, it was in May. It was before the election, right? So we haven't even had a chance to celebrate together the success of Measure D. So this is, at least in a small way, a chance to do that. That was perfect. That is exactly what I wanted. So thank you. That's great. So just as a really quick recap, I think most of you are familiar with this now, where we've been to make Measure D happen, or at least to set the stage for it. So over a couple of years, 2023 to 2025, the Open Space Authority as an agency was exploring a funding measure, did quite a bit of stakeholder outreach, research with consultants to determine what kind of tax mechanism might work best and what was really going to be a good fit for the agency. However, in August of 2025, our board decided to put it on hold because the polling just wasn't showing support for the 2/3 that would be needed. In September of 2025, a citizens group came forward and launched a voter initiative, and they did so initially by providing a notice of intent to the Open Space Authority, and then they gathered signatures. That was over the fall, and then in January 2026 submitted those signatures to the Open Space Authority. Caroline personally counted thousands, tens of thousands of signatures with some help, I believe, by other staff. And then submitted those to the county for full verification of the signatures. In February of 2026, a sufficient number of signatures were verified by the registrar of voters, and the OSA, placed the measure on the ballot, which they were required to do by law. Whether they liked the measure or not, the Open Space Authority Board was required to take that action. June 2nd was election day. As we know, Measure D passed, and very, very robustly, I would say, too, with some of the data down here. And then on June 30th, the registrar of voters certified the vote, and on the same day, our board of directors responded in very promptly to accept the certification so that the taxes could be collected starting in January of 2027. Had the Open Space Authority Board waited, even 12 hours to make that acceptance decision, it would have taken another year for the first tranche of funding to come into the Open Space Authority. So thank you for acting quickly. And then just here's some of the statistics. Measure D passed with 55.38% of the vote. That is a 28,000 vote margin. And by comparison, Measure Q in 2014 passed with 3,212 votes, a much smaller margin. But it's a little bit apples and oranges because Measure Q required 2/3, a much higher bar. So there is a difference that way, but still a very strong vote in favor of Measure D. And then just for the wonks here that are interested in all the statistics, the county-wide voter turnout was 39%, which was actually good. The gubernatorial race, I think, brought a lot of people out. And down ballot voting, which is what it's called when you go to all the items that are further down on the ballot, was still 35+%, which is actually very good. A lot of people don't bother with some of the measures that are less familiar with down at the bottom of the ballot, but really good turnout that way. All right, that's the recap. And with that, I'll pass it to you, Lee. I just had one slide.
All right. Ooh. Didn't know Mark was that much taller than me. Let's try that. All right. So good evening, CAC members. Lee Rauscher, Assistant General Manager. So trying to pick it up, sorry, I thought Mark was going to do these too. So what is a parcel tax? Special tax charged to real property within a defined jurisdiction or district, easy for me to say, based on parcel characteristics, it's a voter approved purpose, and there are no special benefit required for these taxes. And it gives you some examples there on the slide. This particular measure, Measure D, is eligible for an annual CPI adjustment at the board's discretion. They don't have to do it, but they can consider one each year. This would be based on the annual increase in the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers for the San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward area. And as I said, it's the board would actually have to consider it. It's not an automatic. So the annual process to collect a parcel tax, as you can see on the slide, has a lot of steps, and many of them are quite complicated and laborious. So thankful for us, we've been working with SCI Consulting Group for over a decade now. SCI Consulting brings over 40 years of experience to parcel tax administration. And we've been working with them since, D1. D1 and Measure D are forever going to trip up my tongue, I'm afraid. They are wonderful folks. They've delivered great service for us. And we are thankful that they are by our side here to administer Measure D with us. Unlike District 1, Measure Q, and then Measure T, Measure D actually permits 3 exceptions. In each case, the parcel owner has to make the parcel their principal residence, and then one of these 3 things has to be true. They have to be a senior who's at least 65 years of age by July 1st of the fiscal year or the tax year. They have to be collecting supplemental security income, SSI, or Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. And then the revenue timeline, our exemption portal opened on July 1st. So remembering what Mark just said, that the certified results of the election were accepted by our board on June 30th. So the very next day, we started accepting applications for exemptions. Everyone who applies for an exemption and is approved by today, July 27th, will not have that charge appear on their tax bill. But this is a very unique year since we have such a short timeline between the day we were able to start accepting exemption applications and the time the tax rolls had to be submitted. We're doing something very special this year. So starting tomorrow, anyone who applies for one of the 3 exemptions and is approved through December 31st, although they're going to receive on their tax bill a charge for Measure D, and they should pay it because the county will expect them to, they've been billed, the authority will actually refund that exemption, or sorry, that tax, because they've been approved for an exemption. We'll also work with SDI to make sure that their name is removed from the next year's tax roll so they don't get charged again. And as you can see on this timeline too, and it's because the tax rolls actually go into the county in August, so we had to cut it off at some point in order for SCI to do their work. Property tax bills are mailed out in October. The first installment of payment for the parcel tax is due in November. And then, as you see on the timeline too, we would close again that exemption period on December 31st. Folks can go to our online portal. Sorry, just double checking my notes. I feel like I've left something out, but folks can go to our online portal, our website for a link to this online portal. This is SCI's portal. And shortly before actually the election, we started getting inquiries about exemptions. We got enough inquiries that we just started an interest list. And ultimately, over 200 people signed up, letting us know that they'd like more information when information about the exemptions became available. So on July 1st, we sent emails to all of these folks. And since then, and July 22nd, so just about 5 days ago, we've had a total of 237 requests for exemptions. 229 of those were already approved. One person wasn't actually quite old enough yet as of July 1st, so they'll get their exemption next year. 5 more needed a little more information for SCI, and then 2 were pending processing. And interestingly, 166 of those inquiries came in through the portal for SCI and 70 via email, and 1 person actually dropped off their form in Fairfield. Kind of interesting for being out of the jurisdiction. For the next fiscal year, July 2027 through June 2028, the authority will accept applications for exemptions just January 1st through May 31st. So it'll be a different timeline. And the exemption portal will be closed as of June 1 so that SCI can do their work and prepare the tax rolls to be submitted there in August. So we recognize that there may be folks who receive a tax bill and believe they've been charged incorrectly. So there's an appeals process. Common reasons for folks to feel maybe their tax bill is incorrect is maybe they believe it was calculated on the wrong square footage. Maybe they feel the tax rate was applied improperly, or they didn't hit, the cap of $7,500 wasn't applied, or potentially there's an exemption for the property or the parcel owner that wasn't taken into account. Parcel owners can call the number on their tax bill. They can also get this information off the website, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And then they'll request a form through SCI, work with SCI directly. SCI works with staff to research the data, and then Measure D actually makes the authority the ultimate decider for an appeals process. And through the administrative policy the board adopted, the general manager actually has that authority. And one other thing to note is that refunds based on an appeal can only be issued for the current tax year, so the tax year in which a taxpayer requested the refund. Okay. New parcel taxes also have to be noticed to parcel owners living outside the jurisdiction. And the Assembly Bill 2476 actually dictates the language, which is what you see here on the screen. So the authority is elected to send out postcards to folks living outside the jurisdiction that own a parcel here and are subject to this tax. On the postcard will be a QR code, which folks can scan and come back to our website with the same language, and then use our website to translate this message into several different languages. But the postcards themselves will only go out in English. All right, so this is a lot of information to absorb, and we are flying through it. So I want to give you an easy place to come back and find this information should you or a member of the public ask you a question that you're not sure about. So this is the page that I come into our website, but from any page that you enter, you'll see that About option up at the top. There's a drop-down menu, and you'll select Public Information and Funding, which will take you here. And then you scroll down just a little bit, and you get a banner that says how we're funded. You use the caret to display this information, and you'll get all the information that you need, or again, could refer someone to about Measure D. And down towards the bottom in this last orange circle here, click here for more information about exemptions, which will take you here. So everything is written out, very easy for folks, I hope, to find this information. You'll find information about how to apply, all the frequently asked questions, the applications materials. A shout out again to our comms team, who is so helpful in putting all of this together to support the outreach for Measure D exemptions. They've had several posts, made beautiful pages on our website for us here, and then helped us contact those 200 some odd folks who were waiting for information when our exemptions went live. All right, so probably one of the questions that you all have, I imagine, is, so when are we going to receive Measure D dollars? So here's a basic timeline for you. Again, the tax rolls are submitted to the county in August. October, the county mails out the tax bills. First installment for parcel tax payments are due in November. I know they give you a little extra time into December, but we'll just stick with November 1 for now. That means that the first tranche of Measure D revenue would come to the authority in January of 2027, less the 1% collection fee that the county takes right off the top. Then the second installment for parcel tax owners are due February 1st, again with a little bit of leeway after that. But then the second tranche of revenue comes to the authority in June 2027. So in this current fiscal year, right before the end of this current fiscal year, we will have received 1 full year of Measure D revenue. And as Mark said, we had to push out acceptance of those certified results even 12 hours, we would have had to wait a full year. to collect revenue. So Measure D is expected to be roughly $17 million. There's less a collection fee, less some exemptions. We're looking at obviously a very healthy new line of revenue. I also wanted to let you know too that the board will be working on setting priorities and how they want to make investments with Measure D revenue out into the community. They'll start looking at those options probably in early to mid 2027. And like Measure Q and T, revenue and expenses from Measure D are subject to annual oversight of our Independent Expenditure Plan Oversight Committee, or EPOC for short. Starting in fiscal year 27-28, so a year away. Measure D revenue and expenses will be included in our staff's annual expenditure plan status report. We issue one every year for Measure Q, Measure T, how we're spending those dollars, what are the status of the report of the projects rather that we're working on with them. And then EPOC issues their own annual report after they've audited our a sampling of transactions and reviewed the audit. So also subject to a financial audit from our independent financial auditor. And at this point, I'm going to pause for a moment because I think Mark would like to add a bit of data.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Just one thing I wanted to add. So in reference to what Lee just mentioned, that our board will be developing priorities for spending of Measure D as that money is spent, and, you know, new accomplishments for the agency are produced and announced by our communications team to the public. In response to one question that we got offline in advance from a member of the CAC, really appreciate that advanced thinking. One of the ways that you can help to push out those messages is, of course, as with any other communications that are put out on social media, is to repost those yourself to your own networks. So push those messages out to your networks. Also, you can add your own personal message along with it to reinforce what is being posted. Those are really good ways to communicate accomplishments to the public from Measure D. And then invite us to community meetings, neighborhood association meetings, clubs that you belong to, as many of you have done in the past too. Either you can speak about some of these Measure D accomplishments as they accumulate, or invite staff to give the presentation. Always want to be building awareness about the Open Space Authority and the important work that we do, but invitations from you as individuals in the networks that you are part of, that really helps us a lot. So just wanted to mention that as well. Thank you.
And with that, we're ready to take any questions.
I see Edward, he has a question. Anybody else?
Oh, there we go. I was just curious, do you know how many total parcels are subject to this in the first tax year?
I believe about 330,000, roughly.
Probably 330,000.
I do not know.
I think it's on that order. Yeah, I don't have the exact number, and it changes, with partial
Right,
splits.
right.
Yeah.
230,000 exemption requests, so.
230.
237.
Yeah.
37, did I say 230?
Thousand.
Disregard, anyway. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Okay, everybody, we're coming into our home stretch here. We are now going to have our board liaison, Ms. Kathy, come up and tell us what's going on at the board level.
Thank you all CAC members for allowing me to speak. I'm delighted to be here. As you can probably tell, the board's had a very busy year. Even though Measure D was not something we worked on, it is something that it was very busy. But the other thing that the board's been doing is we've had 3 all-day retreats that have been facilitated. And what we have been focusing on is the future of the organization, and knowing that our 15-year general manager would be separating from us, we needed to take a step and think about the future and what kind of skills we would like for a new GM. So we've been very, very focused on that. There is a subcommittee that will be working with Elizabeth, and they will be taking the decisions that we as a board made and beginning the selection process. So we're going to have a very busy year. And at the last board meeting, we all had an opportunity to say a few words to Andrea. So it was a wonderful, wonderful meeting. I also would like to remind you all that National Night Out is just a little bit over a week away. And I encourage you to go. Just drop by anyone that you know. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to run in around, just kind of checking in with people, saying, here's some stuff about the Open Space Authority. And lastly, I wanted to just say that the work that we do is long-term. It's for forever that we protect land. But the protection of land and land use takes years, if not decades. And so we are all in here for the long haul. And we, as a board, thank you all for all of your work that you do to bring the mission of the Open Space Authority and out to the public, because we can't do it without you. And so I think that's it. It's going to be a year. It's going to be a big year. It's going to be a big year of big changes, but the board is ready. We've been working on this for a while. So thank you.
Thank you. I think Edward has a comment.
I just wanted to say thanks to whoever was bright enough to realize that they only had 12 hours to do that without losing out on a year's tax income. Or revenue.
Yeah.
That was
Sometimes everything just works out.
Thank you so much, Kathy. It sounds like there's a lot of exciting things that are happening, and we have the same sentiment as well too about people leaving. So speaking of people leaving, we're going to invite Andrea up to the podium to talk about the general manager's report.
I think I'll just stay where I am, if that's okay, Madam Chair. I'll just make it really short, and then I'll encourage my management team to keep their report out really short too. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to the CAC. You are a terrific group of advisors to staff and the board. Love seeing the growth of this entity. I love seeing the commitment of all of you and everything you bring. It's definitely a team sport. And I just want to thank you for your words at the beginning of the meeting, Madam Chair. And I think it was pretty clear in the email you all received and that went out that really this 15 years of portion of my career has really been the honor of a lifetime to work here. And it's just simply one of the best agencies around. I love this place. I love the people that work here. I love what we do and how we do it. The culture is really important here. And that's going to continue, and you're a big part of that. So thank you in advance for all that you'll continue to bring. And with that, Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, we're definitely gonna miss you. But I'll save my comments for later. I know we're short on time, but yeah, it's a bittersweet moment for sure. So just a couple of things I wanted to update the CAC members on. We recently submitted a grant application for $14.5 million for Mid-Coyote Valley land acquisition from Peninsula Open Space Trust to the Coastal Conservancy. And we heard that the Coastal Conservancy staff is recommending that for approval at their September meeting. So we're expecting that funding. And that's not something that showed up in the budget that Justina showed you earlier. These are additional funds that fund our work. Also, we are expecting an appropriation from the legislature to the Coyote Valley Conservation Program from Prop 4 funds that will fund what I just mentioned, that grant that would be coming from the Coastal Conservancy. So that will be $14 million in addition to the $3 million they appropriated last year. And also notable that the legislature approved in its budget 15 million for the local food purchase assistance program, also important for our agriculture program. Locally, we're hearing that we've spoken in the past about the battery energy storage system in Coyote Valley that's been proposed. And we've been hearing through the grapevine that AES, the company proposing the project, is looking for alternative sites for that project. So nothing conclusive, nothing definite, but it's a good sign that it's going in that direction. So we'll keep you apprised of further information. And then on the Heritage Oak Cemetery project, which we've also talked about in the past, we're awaiting comments back from planning staff on everything that was submitted for the EIR, the environmental impact report, and should be looking for a planning director's hearing sometime this fall. We'll keep you apprised of that as well. Those are my main points. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right, good evening again. A couple of quick things. As Kathy, I think, mentioned, National Night Out is August the 4th, so next Tuesday. We do have events set up in each district. Watch for an email from Gavin to let you know where those are. They're all staffed, but we would love to have you drop by if you're interested. You know, the more the merrier, so we'd love to see you. And thanks to Joe and Lauren, I saw him escape with his bag of goodies for his National Night Out event that he's gonna help host. But thank you for your extra participation there. Wanted to let you know that Mary Paul, our new Habitat Program Manager, started with us on July 20th. So she's been here a full week now. Mary was previously with Elkhorn Slough as the Native Plant Conservation Program Manager. She brings 20 years of habitat restoration experience to us, and we're very excited to have her. She's joining at a great time as our land management team is planning a prescribed burn at Rancho this fall in November. And one of Mary's responsibilities will be our fuels management plan. So like I said, here at a great time to learn and get in on the ground floor. Lastly, we are recruiting for an executive assistant. That recruitment closes Monday. So if you know someone or could share that opportunity with your networks, it would be great if you would pass that along. And that's what Yes, Mary.
Charlotte? Anything?
Okay. I'm sorry, question for Leah. I think it's for you, Leah. Forgot the potential timeline for completion of the disability route at Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve. Who has that information, generally speaking?
Yeah, through the chair. So construction is underway of the accessibility trail at Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, and this fall the trail will be completed. So we don't want to give an exact date because construction always has delays or varies a lot. But there will be a grand opening in November, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you. I've been getting questions about it since the great coverage on the ribbon cutting. It's fantastic. And then San Jose at their Viva, they're having their Viva Parks running through the city right now. And we had one in our neighborhood recently, and Open Space was there. Thank you, Charlotte, or whoever does the newsletter or whatever I read, because no one in my neighborhood knew about it. At least our neighborhood association didn't know about it. My district, Mr. Casey's district, I can't remember what the number is. Is it 10? I can't. 10. Well, no one was aware. And so anyway, I got everyone wanted to know how I knew about it. I said, oh, the Open Space Authority let me know that was going to happen. So thank you very much for that. It was a good success, even though I don't know how people found out about it.
Good evening, Citizens Advisory Committee members, Charlotte Graham, Public Information Manager here at the Open Space Authority. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. I loved hearing your feedback about the social media ideas. Every time I come to the meetings, always getting inspiration. Next time, I believe next time I see you all, the communications team is going to be giving an update on our public education work. So you don't have to wait until then though to ask questions and reach out. Please do get in touch and share ideas for any type of either social media. We also have been working to get our activity books out in libraries, community centers, and we'd love to hear your ideas about different places where you think people could benefit from having those resources. And sorry, my monkey's going crazy in this corner. I don't know what it is, but yeah, please feel free to reach out and just thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're gonna move on to our committee members. Are there any updates? Yes, Justin.
I know everybody wants to go home, but I do need to comment on this. Has to do a lot with what we were talking about earlier with youth and agriculture. Earlier this year, I don't know, sometime this winter or early spring, the Santa Clara County Fair, which normally takes place end of July, early August, moved their date back into August, like the third week of August, which unfortunately coincides with the first week of school. So many students were not able to attend, as well as their advisor teachers who are happen to teach their first week of school. I think Campbell, they were excused. Their school district excused them, either that or they have a different start time. I'm not sure, but they are able to go. But the other three high schools are not able to attend the fair. A group of volunteers, parents, advisors, they went ahead and they coordinated a new show for them, which is, the first show was today. It's just a haul-in show. They're doing it at Thorson's Arena off of Watsonville Road. It's a big covered arena. The students are able to haul in their animals today and tomorrow, exhibit them, show them. Today they did sheep and swine. Tomorrow they will be doing goats and cattle. And then they're holding the auction down at the Rancher's Choice Stockyards, which is formerly the 101 sale yard down in Aromas along 101, down just south of San Juan Bautista. So I just want to put that out there. If anybody's interested in supporting them, would there be a way to put a flyer on our social media? Announcing that. That would be very helpful. It helps try to visit some buyers. Because that is the main thing. I mean, yeah, the kids can go show their animals, but if they don't have a buyer there on Saturday, it really affects them. They really need to have participation there. So,
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Do you have a flyer you can send us?
I do. I will do that. I send it to you.
Yeah.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. I read about that actually in something online, but I did hear that parents were going to be organizing, but I did not know the date was this week. So thanks for sharing that. And I hope that the fair will figure out another date, because my kids and I do like to see the 4-H stuff that the students are doing from the other high schools. So.
There will still be some there, but it'll be a lot fewer animals, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And the reason was that they were told was that it was a scheduling conflict with State Fair. State Fair changed their dates.
Yeah.
I think a few other
happened like this weekend,
fairs
right?
did. And it's because of the carnival vendor. They did not have a carnival vendor that could come during the previous time during the fair.
I see another career field for people that, you could be.
For the next 5 years. Supposedly they're locked into this for the next 5 years. So hopefully the South Valley Egg Fair can continue helping these kids out.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing and for a little bit more of that backstory as well. Are there any other committee members with updates? If not, I'll do a shameless plug. So we do have some board members. We do have some board seats that are up for re-election this year. So if you are in a district, I'd say go on to the OSA page, find out which districts those are. If you're in a district that has a seat that's open for election, consider running for that position if it tickles your fancy. So just want to throw that out there as well. Great opportunities to continue your civic engagement and then be on the voting board. As we heard, being able to have longevity and a diversity of thoughts is wonderful for that board as well too. So shameless plug there to consider running for that position. That's my little plug there. Any other committee members? Going subcommittee members. Okay, let's adjourn at 8:55.